Welcome back to the Cuse Quarter. Now, Syracuse had a bye week this past week, so they got a chance to rest, and so did we. We didn't have a show last week, but we're happy to be back covering Syracuse and Florida State this week. I'm alongside Tommy Farrell, India Tipton, and Jonathan Singh. I'm Monica Ortiz, your host for the show. Now, talking about that bye week, how does that help you, mentally and physically in that aspect? It's a long stretch down the season right now.
Well, physically, it's a huge relief on your body. I mean, playing football for 16 years and playing games, I mean, it's a brutal sport. I'm pretty sure if you play one football game, it's like the equivalent of getting into 6 car crashes.
Yeah.
So for having a week off and getting in the ice tubs and getting off your feet and just rolling out and just relaxing, doing nothing, it's a game changer. It's literally halftime for an entire season, and it's a big help for the players.
And Indy, you got a special touch. You got to talk with some of them. Right?
Yeah, as Tommy said, it's a rest on the body, but it also gives you a chance to kind of evaluate the game with your mind. Getting to sit down and watch more film, look at the X and O's, and study your stat sheet for the next team.
I think it certainly helped the Orange, and especially a lot of teams have their bye week earlier on in the season. I think this is a good time for Syracuse to have their bye week. As we stated many times, coming off a big win against Clemson. 2 weeks ago wasn't the best scenario for Syracuse down in Miami, but I think the bye week came at a great time. They're going to go back down to Florida, take on Florida State, and I think it's good for the team and the players. Definitely, like Tommy said, rest up, and it's kind of like pretty much not a new season, but it just reiterated,
rejuvenated.
Yeah,
they're new players.
Everything else is in the past right now.
They got to rest, recover, and regroup, so they should be ready to go.
Yeah, mentally and physically. So.
Yeah. What about Florida State? Not having the best season right now, 6th ranked in the ACC, just came off a big loss to Boston College. What's happening with them right now?
Well, I mean, they're having their worst 7-game start since 1976. They could miss a bowl game for the first time since 1981, and their only 2 wins against Wake Forest and Duke, and they weren't really even blowouts. They beat each team by a touchdown. So then the most points they've scored in a game all season, 21. So that's, I mean, who is this Florida State team that we're seeing? I have no idea.
I think Florida State, I think their season went down the hill week 1 against Alabama, losing DeAndre Francois early on, lost for the season. They didn't know who their quarterback was going to be. They were making multiple shifts at the position throughout the season. So Francois going down obviously hurt the Seminoles, but at 2-5, not looking too good. They played well against Louisville. They played well against Alabama the first week of the season, and they go to Boston College and they get dominated on both sides of the football by a not so talented Boston College team. So that makes you think. Syracuse also has Boston College coming up later on in the season, so things should be interesting.
But it's important to think about too. That's one of the beauties of college athletics. Every time the clock stops, you get a whole other chance when it starts again.
Yep.
So, Syracuse has been in a position like that before. Yeah, you just got to come ready to play because any day anyone can win, as we saw with Clemson, and they made history a few weeks back.
And when your quarterback and James Blackman is only 11 for 26 and with an interception and barely touching 100 yards, that's not going to win you a football game. And especially Boston College might not be the best team in the ACC, but they're always known for having a decent front seven in their defensive side of the ball. So, I don't know, man. James Blackman, he's not the worst situation when Francois goes down, right? But when you're throwing under 50% in a game, that's not going to win you ball games.
Offensively, you're talking about the quarterback. This team isn't necessarily just not explosive on offense, but it seems like they're not meshing well together. What's happening with their offense in that situation?
I think it comes down to the whole quarterback situation. They can't get settled under center. Your whole offense is going to be a mess. You're not going to be organized, and both on the ground and in the air, it's not going to click. It all starts under center.
And it's a completely different offense than we see from Syracuse. Syracuse averaging 87 plays a game, which is unheard of. I mean, at a Division II school, when we ran the spread, we averaged maybe 65, 70, maybe 75 plays a game. Florida State's only averaging 62, 63 plays a game. So, granted, when you have a young, inexperienced quarterback, you want to slow things down and you want to get his IQ built up a little bit and have him read the defense a little longer. but a completely different tempo of offense that we've seen in the Orange this season.
And different too, Syracuse is finally doing what Babers wanted them to do.
Right.
So, they're following their coach's plan, 87, that's a lot, but it's what he wants.
Right.
So, Dungy didn't have his best game down, with those 4 interceptions or whatnot, but he was able to bounce back a little bit, and something was in his shoes because he thought he could leap over everyone down in Florida. So we'll
and
see.
playing a little bit of defense too.
Yeah.
When he stripped
a
that
few
ball.
blocks, yeah.
Yes, he did do that.
Late in the game down in Miami, that was a ton of hard by both sides of the football of Syracuse. Cole Murphy bringing the Orange to a 1-point game,
Yeah.
20-19.
By him.
He had 4 field goals on the day. He included 12. He included 12 of Syracuse 19 points in that contest. But Dungy 13 for 41. He's got to be better than that.
And the one important stat about Dungy wasn't a number stat. How about his whole jersey was covered in green? It looked like he played for Miami. He was all over the field. It was raining, but when you said he tried to leap over a player, and then he stripped it, and he throws an interception and he strips the ball back. I mean, if someone says that kid is not tough or does not show heart, I mean,
and
that's your boy,
when I
John.
talked to him during the bye week, he was saying that a lot of times when he plays, he tries to outdo the other team. And since one of his teammates was leaped over cleanly, his wasn't as clean, but he was trying to stick up for his guys and have their back. So.
But how do you get something like that out of your head? 4 interceptions, especially going against a guy, Derwin James. It's one of the biggest defensive backs.
I know one of the analysts was saying
that
that sometimes, professional players, they'll go in the locker room at halftime, strip everying off, take a quick shower, and put on a fresh uniform. So maybe, they need to start traveling with 2 so that if that's the case, he can get right for the next half.
Yeah, you need to have a clear mind, I'm sure coming into the second half, Dungy, those 4 interceptions, they were way past him. Literally.
Yeah.
So, Syracuse came out. There's 14 points in the second half. Once again, another great second half by the Orange. They fell short, though, and you got to move on.
4 interceptions, but kept Miami to 13 points in that first half. Defensively, what's working for them right now, especially going up against Florida State?
Well, they're stopping the run very well. Where it sounds like they're allowing 129 rushing yards per game. That might be a little lot because it's over 100 yards, but they've been playing run-heavy teams in Clemson and LSU and NC State a little bit too. Has been running the rock more a little bit than usual. But for the Syracuse defense, if they want to succeed this weekend, they gotta all facets of the game. And if I'm Brian Ward, the defense coordinator, I am taking advantage of Blackman at quarterback, and I am blitzing the heck out of our defense with Bennett and Zaire and the whole D line. If hopefully Kendall Coleman's healthy too.
And Robinson, he's had a few great sacks this year.
Yeah.
Only 13 points last game against Miami in the first half. Miami had great field position pretty much the entire first half. After the interceptions, they were set up. They were in Orange territory pretty much every drive. The defense played great. 13 points getting out of the first half for Syracuse. That was a win. That game could have got ugly a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was. It felt like they were more behind than 13 points in that first half, but kept pretty consistent throughout the game, only allowing 29 points total. So pretty good game from them in that aspect. But still have some other tough games down the road. We keep talking about bowl eligibility, but who's beatable right now? How can Syracuse do?
I'm going on camera right now. I'm saying it. Syracuse is winning out. They are going to finish 8-4. They're going to go to a bowl game. We'll get to predictions. They're going to beat Florida State. They're going to beat Wake Forest. They're going to beat Louisville, and they're going to beat Boston College. And Orange Nation and Varsity Pizza, we're going to go crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I think we're going to win out, and I think we will end up in a bowl game. But to do that, we need to be more consistent. Coach Babers talked all the way back at NC State about he's got great players on both sides of the field. They have everything they need. It's just going to be when they decide in their mind to play a complete game. And they can't do that if Dungy starts out with turnovers. If we look at their past, when he doesn't start well, the team doesn't start well. And when the defense is able to carry him a little bit, they're able to pick it back up. But if they start better and a little bit more consistent, they should be fine.
I think Syracuse has a great chance against Wake Forest and Boston College. I don't know so much about Florida State and Louisville. Florida State is not a 2-5 team. They're not a 2-5 team.
No.
They're talented on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
They are. They're quick, they're explosive, and they're big. And their defensive line is notoriously known for being monsters.
And Derwin James, their All-American safety, who's probably just worried about the NFL at this point.
Yeah.
He's one of the hardest-hitting, versatile, fastest safeties I've seen in college football. Granted, maybe I'd be worried about the NFL too, but he said there's a lack of leadership on Florida State's team, and everyone's just there's a lot of individuals on the Seminole football team, and you're not going to win football games. You played a college sport when you were just worrying about yourself and you're not worried about the team. no one cares about practice. No one cares about the process, about winning a game. So that's not a good environment that Jimbo Fisher has been taking care of recently.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any easier for them. After the Orange, they
got Delaware
State, and then they go down to the Swamp,
yeah.
and they have to verse Florida, a coach's team. So,
yeah.
But I mean, if you're one of the guys in the orange uniform, I think it's also important to remember they've tasted that victory, that glory, that success. You know, they had thousands of fans rushing the field only a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So in their minds, you know, they had a chance to recover, regroup, to relax a little bit. You know, they probably were a little distracted in the last game because of that win versus Clemson. So hopefully they can regroup, and I'm sure all those seniors are hungry to finish on a high note.
Definitely.
I mean, they've taken out one of the top teams in the country. What better way to end their senior season than with a bowl game? I mean, when's the last time they could say they did that?
Yeah.
I don't think you ever forget that type of feeling that we saw against Clemson. Like, that's got to stick with you forever and through each game.
And how about Syracuse hasn't won on the road this season?
Yeah.
Yes. And what better way to win your first road game than down in Florida State?
Yeah.
So, saying that, what are your guys' predictions for this week?
Well, like you said, John, Florida State is a very, very talented football team, but they're not playing like it. They're not meshing well together. Syracuse is going to be very healthy coming off a bye week. They're going to feel it's going to be 77 and sunny on Saturday afternoon down in Tallahassee. I got Syracuse winning 27-20. I think Florida State is actually going to be in front most of the game because Syracuse they finish fast, but they don't start fast. So Syracuse, I hope that they start fast, and I hope I hope it's a blowout, obviously. But I think Florida State is gonna have Syracuse with their backs against the wall. But I think Syracuse is gonna respond. I think they're gonna win 27-20.
What do you guys think?
I'm going to go with 24-18 Syracuse. You know, I go out every week thinking they're going to win it, and that's not going to change. So I'm going to predict that, again. And, we all bleed orange up here. So yeah. I think they're going to handle their business down in Florida and come back with a great win.
I have 24-14 Florida State. I think Florida State's going to beat Syracuse with their speed. I don't think Syracuse is going to have a great first half. They haven't really shown a great first half all season, so I'm going to be honest here with my prediction. I go 24-14 Seminoles.
I'm going to have to go with Syracuse on top for this one. I just don't think Florida State has it in them right now. They're in their heads, 2-5 team right now. How do they get out of that? So I think I'm going to have to go with Syracuse, not necessarily coming off a high note against Miami, but I think that they know that they can beat Florida State, and that's in their head right now, so I think they're going to go in with that type of momentum. Just came off a bye week. I think that this is going to be their game to get in there and get into bowl eligibility right now.
And we'll be down in Tallahassee.
Yes, they will be.
Follow us on Twitter. We'll put our Twitter names right here on the screen, so follow us for updates down in Tallahassee. John and I got you covered down there.
Yes, but be on the lookout. We have another episode coming out this next Thursday. Syracuse is playing Wake Forest here at the Dome, so we'll see you then.